The day of my mother's funeral was supposed to be about grief, remembrance, and respect. A quiet church filled with fading lilies, polished wood pews, and the heavy silence that comes only when people are united in mourning. I had spent the entire morning fighting back tears, pressing trembling hands against my black dress, reminding myself to breathe. But the moment I walked into that room, I knew this wouldn't be the kind of farewell my mother deserved. The atmosphere wasn't just heavy with loss, it was thick with judgment. Eyes followed me, sharp whispers cut the air like tiny blades, and I could feel the smirk behind every forced condolence. It had always been this way with my family. To them, I wasn't a daughter worth celebrating. I wasn't successful enough, glamorous enough, or wealthy enough. While my sister wore her diamonds and designer heels, I came in with what they saw as nothing, just the woman who ran a little shop, a woman who, in their minds, had failed to live up to the family name. I tried to stay silent. I tried to focus on the casket, on the memory of my mother's gentle hands and the lullabies she used to hum. But silence was never an option for them. It began with a chuckle, low, mocking, deliberately loud enough for others to hear. Then the words spilled, venom wrapped in silk. "Look at her," my sister whispered, though not quietly at all. Still clinging to that tiny shop of hers. Mom deserved better than a daughter who sells trinkets on the corner. A few of my relatives laughed. Laughed. At my mother's funeral. At me. At the life I had quietly built, the life they thought was small, insignificant, and disposable. I clenched my fists. I told myself to hold on, to let it pass. But then came the cruelty that cut deeper than any insult before. My sister leaned toward another aunt and said, "After the will is settled, we'll sell that shop. Finally, we can turn it into something useful. She won't fight us, what can she do? She's nothing." And that was when something shifted inside me. For years, I had kept a secret. For years, I had played the role of the disappointment, the struggling daughter, the one they thought they could walk over. I had let them believe their lies because I wanted freedom. Because I wanted peace. Because I had chosen a path far away from their world of control and cruelty. But as I stood in that church, with my mother's casket just a few feet away and my sister's poisonous words still ringing in my ears, I knew one thing with absolute certainty: their time of mocking me was over. They had no idea who I really was. And before this story ends, they would. When the service ended and people began to filter toward the reception hall, I walked slowly, letting them pass ahead. I could hear the laughter still, my sister's shrill voice carrying as though the funeral was nothing but a stage for her performance. She loved the attention, the way relatives leaned in to hear her whispers. They clung to her every word, desperate not to be her next target. She caught my eye across the room, her red lips curving into a smile that wasn't a smile at all. It was victory. She thought she had already won. She thought I was still the same girl who used to shrink under her cruelty, who used to hide in her shadow, who used to believe I was less. I kept my face still. I didn't give her the satisfaction of anger. Instead, I walked past her, my heels clicking against the polished floor, my chin high. My silence rattled her more than a shout ever could. She wanted me to break. She wanted me to defend myself, to fight, to give her more fuel. But I didn't. Not yet. At the reception, the whispers grew louder. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years made comments about how tired I looked, how unfortunate it was. That I had never really made something of myself. An uncle leaned close and asked if I needed money, his voice dripping with fake sympathy. They didn't see me, they saw the image my sister had painted. A woman who barely scraped by. A woman unworthy of respect. I forced a smile, thanked them politely, and walked away. Because I knew something they didn't. My life was nothing like the picture they mocked. 6 years ago, I had walked away from this family with nothing but a dream and the determination to never let them control me again. They thought I was weak, but I had been building. Brick by brick, year by year, and while they lived in their bubble of gossip and greed, I created something real. Something powerful, something mine. The little shop they sneered at. It was the seed of an empire. Behind the modest storefront they ridiculed was a fashion house that had grown quietly, deliberately, until it stretched across cities, across countries, across oceans. What started as sketches at my kitchen table had become designs worn by celebrities, whispered about at galas, displayed in windows that people stopped to admire. But I never told them. I never corrected them when they laughed at me. Because their underestimation was my armor. They had no idea the woman they were mocking was the owner of a billion-dollar brand. As I stood at that reception, their words washing over me, I realized something. This was the moment. The perfect moment. My mother had always told me that truth would reveal itself when it was ready. And maybe, just maybe, today was that day. My sister cornered me by the buffet table, her perfume heavy, her diamonds catching the light. She leaned in close, voice sharp enough to cut. Don't look so sad. Once we sell that shop of yours, maybe you can finally be free of your pathetic little hobby. Consider it a gift from me. I looked at her, really looked at her. The smugness, the entitlement, the certainty that she had already won. For a second, I almost pitied her. Almost. I smiled. Not the brittle smile they all expected, but something different. Calm, certain, strong. And for the first time in years, I saw confusion flicker in her eyes. She didn't know it yet, but her world was about to change. I walked away from her without a word, letting my silence linger in the air like a shadow she couldn't shake off. I could feel her eyes on me, watching, waiting for me to crumble. But instead of falling apart, I took a glass of water, found a seat near the window, and let the chatter of the room blur into background noise. The truth was, my plan had been in motion long before this day. I knew that one day they would circle like vultures, desperate to take what wasn't theirs. And I had prepared. Every document, every signature, every legal safeguard was in place. My business, my property, my future, they were untouchable. But I wanted more than just safety. I wanted them to see. To finally understand who I had become without them. As I sat there, sipping slowly, a man in a tailored suit approached. His presence turned heads immediately. He wasn't from our family. He was polished, confident, the kind of person who carried authority without needing to announce it. My sister noticed him instantly, her smile flashing as she assumed he was here for her. "Nicole," he said softly, with a nod of respect. "The car is ready whenever you are." The room went quiet. Heads turned. Eyes widened. My sister's painted smile faltered. For years, they had thought of me as nothing, someone barely hanging on. And here was a man of obvious importance, speaking to me with deference, like I mattered. Like I was someone. I stood, setting the glass down carefully, and every motion felt deliberate, powerful. My sister stepped forward quickly, slipping her arm through his as if to claim him. "And who might you be?" she asked, her tone dripping with charm. He glanced at her politely, then turned back to me. "I'm here on behalf of the board. We'll be heading to the office shortly. The investors are waiting." The investors. The board. Words that hit the room like thunder. My family froze. They didn't understand yet, but they were starting to. And the confusion on their faces was the sweetest taste of justice I had ever known. My sister blinked rapidly, her grip tightening on his arm. "Board. Investors. What exactly are you talking about?" I let a small smile touch my lips. "Oh, didn't I mention? The shop you're all so eager to sell isn't just a shop. It hasn't been for a very long time." The whispers started immediately, relatives pulling each other aside, their voices hissing with disbelief. Some tried to hide their shock, others stared openly, as though I had just peeled back a mask they never knew I wore. My sister's face flushed red, but she tried to recover, laughing too loudly. "You're joking. You expect us to believe you, of all people, run something worth mentioning. Please." The man beside me tilted his head, his expression calm. "She doesn't just run it. She built it. From the ground up. And it's now valued at over $1 billion. The room went dead silent. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Eyes darted between me and my sister. And in that silence, for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one being mocked. She was. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The truth was louder than any revenge I could have planned. My sister's hand slipped from the man's arm as though burned. Her mouth opened, then closed again, no words forming. The queen of insults, speechless. It was almost poetic. I walked toward the door, the man following behind me, and paused just long enough to look back at her. "Next time you decide to laugh at someone's life," I said softly, "make sure you actually know who they are." Then I left, and the echo of my words followed me out like music. The whispers didn't stop when I left the hall. They followed me out, echoing like a chorus of disbelief behind me. I didn't need to hear the words clearly to know what they were saying. Every cousin, every aunt, every uncle, every single one of them who had looked down on me, was now scrambling to make sense of what they'd just learned. But my sister wasn't done. She never was. She caught up with me outside, her heels clicking against the stone walkway as she rushed to my side. Her smile had vanished, replaced with the sharp, desperate expression of someone watching her carefully crafted world tilt off its axis. "Nicole," she hissed, grabbing my arm. "What the hell was that? Some kind of performance? You think you can waltz in here with a man in a suit and a few fancy words and suddenly everyone believes you're important?" I turned slowly, meeting her eyes. For years, I had lowered my gaze whenever she spoke. Not anymore. "It wasn't a performance," I said evenly. "It was the truth. Something you've never been very good at recognizing." Her grip tightened. "Don't play games with me. If this empire or whatever you're claiming is real, then that shop is family property. Mom would have wanted." I cut her off with a quiet laugh. "Mom left that shop to me in her will. And while you were too busy mocking me, I was busy protecting it. You can't touch it, Vanessa. Not the building, not the business, not a single brick of it." Her eyes narrowed, glittering with fury. "You think you've won, don't you? You think this changes everything." "It does," I said simply. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "You don't belong in that world. You'll slip. You'll fail. And when you do, I'll be waiting." I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. "I've already been where you think you want me, at the bottom. I survived it. I built from it. There's nothing you can do that I haven't already overcome." For the first time, she stepped back. Not because she wanted to, but because she had to. My words landed. And she knew it. The car pulled up, sleek and black, its tinted windows reflecting the cloudy sky above. The driver stepped out and opened the door with practiced precision. My sister's face twisted as the reality sank in. This wasn't a bluff. This wasn't a game. I slid into the backseat, the man in the tailored suit joining me. As the door shut, I looked out the window at her standing there, angry, confused, powerless. For once, I was the one leaving her behind. The ride to the office was quiet, but inside me, the storm of years was settling. Every cruel word, every laugh, every humiliation, it all felt smaller now, like ashes blowing away in the wind. When we arrived, the boardroom was already full. Investors, advisors, designers, they all stood when I entered. Their respect was tangible, real, earned. The opposite of the hollow approval my sister had always craved. I took my seat at the head of the table, and as the meeting began, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Back at the reception hall, my sister would still be spinning her story, trying to twist the truth, trying to regain control. But no matter what she said, the balance had shifted. And it would never shift back. Because now, they knew. The next few days were a whirlwind. My sister didn't stay quiet. If anything, she doubled down. Every relative she could reach, every mutual friend, every acquaintance who would listen, she painted me as delusional, arrogant, and out of control. She called, texted, and even tried to confront me at my office, insisting I was playing some trick on the family. I let her try. I didn't intervene, because I knew something she didn't. I had patience. I had preparation. I had proof. Every financial document, every business contract, every media feature and celebrity endorsement, everything that proved my success, was ready to be shared at the perfect moment. She kept pushing, though. One evening, she showed up at my boutique, dressed in black, heels clicking across the polished floors. Her children in tow, trying to act innocent, oblivious to the tension hanging like a storm cloud. "Nicole," she said, voice tight and false sweet. "You've made everyone uncomfortable enough. Maybe it's time to stop showing off. Maybe it's time to admit you've gotten lucky, and let us help." I tilted my head, studying her. Her arrogance had always been her weakness. She assumed her wealth and status gave her the right to meddle in my life. She assumed she could intimidate me. She assumed wrong. "You've been given a lot, Vanessa," I said, calm and measured, "but that doesn't mean you understand what it takes to build something real. And no, I don't need help. I need honesty, from you, and from everyone else who thinks they know me." Her lips twitched, anger and disbelief warring for control. You think you're better than us. After everything, Mom raised us the same way, and now you act like you're untouchable. I let her words hang in the air. The boutique was quiet. Employees watched silently from behind counters, some shaking their heads in disbelief. I waited. I smiled. And then I let the truth speak. I pulled out a binder, thick with papers, contracts, invoices, and photographs. I laid it on the glass countertop, flipping it open for her to see. Investors' letters, media features, celebrity endorsements, everything that documented the empire I had built in secret. Vanessa's hand flew to her mouth. Her eyes widened as she scanned the documents, unable to believe what she was seeing. Her voice shook. This can't be real. This isn't, you couldn't. I interrupted her gently. Yes, Vanessa, I did it. I built this. All while you mocked me, laughed at my little shop, and assumed I was nothing. And now, you know. Her children clung to her legs, confused by the tension, unsure of what was real. Her pride, her control, her entire worldview, shattered in front of them. You think this is the end? She finally spat. You think showing us this empire makes you untouchable? I shook my head, smiling. No, Vanessa, this isn't the end. This is the beginning. The beginning of you understanding that underestimation comes with consequences. That cruelty has a cost. That family can't break what I've built in my own life. And yes, this is untouchable. She stood frozen. Her mouth moved, but no words came out. She wanted to argue, to scream, to fight back, but the evidence, the undeniable proof, left her powerless. I closed the binder, placing it gently on the counter. I forgive you, in a way, I said quietly. Because maybe now you'll finally see the truth about people before you mock them. Maybe next time, you'll think twice before trying to take someone down. Her hands shook. Her face was pale. And I knew, in that moment, she understood fully that she had underestimated me. Not just once, but every single day of our lives. And I didn't need to do anything more. Because the empire I built, the life I had created, and the strength I had discovered in myself, those things were untouchable. The days after the reveal felt surreal. Word spread quickly through the family, and I watched from a distance as my sister tried desperately to reclaim some semblance of control. Calls went unanswered, invitations were ignored, and relatives who had once hung on her every word now paused, uncertain how to treat her. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The truth had done the work for me. Every insult, every laugh, every snide remark she had thrown my way had been flipped, reflected, and rendered powerless. She had spent her life assuming she could diminish me, and now she was watching her assumptions crumble in front of her eyes. My boutique thrived. Orders poured in from around the country, international clients called for private consultations, and every corner of the empire I had quietly built reminded me of the years I had sacrificed, the late nights, the constant belief that I was capable of something far bigger than what anyone had ever allowed me to believe. Vanessa tried one last public stunt, attempting to host a dinner for relatives to clarify the situation. I didn't attend. I didn't have to. Photos surfaced, whispers circulated, but it was clear that her credibility had evaporated. No one believed her, and without that power, she was nothing. I spent those nights quietly planning my next moves, not revenge, because that was complete, but expansion, growth, and freedom. I traveled, opened new locations, and invested in projects I had dreamed of while still hiding my success from the world. Family gatherings became awkward. My relatives no longer dared to speak over me. My sister, once the loudest voice in every room, now shrank in silence, aware of the reality she had ignored for too long. I didn't celebrate. I reflected. I allowed myself to finally feel the relief that comes with standing tall, unshakable, untouchable. Because revenge wasn't about destroying someone else. It was about claiming your life, your dignity, and your power. And I had done all three. Mom's funeral had been the stage for her humiliation, but it became the moment of my liberation. The moment she and everyone else saw me not as the girl they mocked, but as the woman I had always been. I had won, not with anger, not with screaming, not with fury, but with precision, patience, and the quiet confidence of someone who refused to be underestimated. And as I stood in my office, looking out over the city, I realized that freedom, true freedom, doesn't come from proving them wrong. It comes from knowing your worth even when they try to take it from you, and never letting them. I had kept my secret, I had kept my peace, and in the end, I had kept myself. The empire, the respect, the life I had built, all of it was mine. And no one could ever touch it again.